Welcome to the Choose on Purpose podcast, where we live with intention. And today we're doing a Wisdom of Women series, which means that I get the privilege and honor of being able to share conversation with an amazing, wise woman to share with you on the show today. So I'm your host, Becky Ploutz, and Tammy Haack. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for
Good.
having me here.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to ask you on the show, can we celebrate with you today? Tell me something good.
Ooh, I will celebrate that I had an in-person coffee
Ooh.
connect this morning, and it felt good. It's always nice to see a friend.
I love that. So, backstory, Tammy and I were both in Wisconsin, and we started our connection virtually in the Work on Purpose with Purpose community, and we have been at retreats together. We have been in book studies together, and have just grown a friendship and developed. We get to be in person sometimes. So, and Tammy knows I love in-person connection. And so I'm going to celebrate you getting to have that in-person coffee because we do have coffee pretty much on every Friday inside of our virtual space. But I know how good it is to get in person and have that coffee time. So definitely celebrating that you take the opportunity to do that, kicking off your weekend with some in-person time. Good for you. Yeah. So if you haven't yet watched this is Tammy's second time on the Choose on Purpose podcast, which is so amazing to get to have her back. So thank you for coming back on and sharing more about, just the journey that you're continuously on in growing and being more of yourself. And you know, Tammy wrote the book, Get Out of Your Way, Live Your Life for You. And that was what we kind of discussed in our first interview. And, really about transformation and being on a journey, which we're still constantly on, right, Tammy?
Sure.
And we've had a lot of conversations between the two of us around, making small changes in our lives and having, small strategies that seem really simple. I like the word simple too, because that's what I feel like in your book, that's exactly what the ABCs, frames up is that it can be simple and deep at the same time because we're currently in discussions around each letter of your book. And I mean, we go deep in there, Tammy. Like, did you think that that would be the way that it is, like having a discussion with your readers or people that are hearing your mind strategies? Did you think that it would like go as deep as we kind of do in that time?
No, I never imagined,
No.
first even having the discussions, and now that we've begun having them, it's always amazing to me as we close down the hour that we have gone as deep, or the scope of the conversation has gone so far beyond what I put on the pages. And, then too, there's the occasion of, wow, if I could rewrite that page. And
And you would? No.
there's possible edits, yes. And so it's also very clear to me that as we do discuss the topics of these strategies on the page, I hear insight experiences from other people. I'm still growing. There's so much good. I'm learning from everyone. I'm gathering so much good and the wisdom that's coming through. It's huge to me because I have such a growth mindset. So if someone else is going to share something that they're doing and how well it's working for them, I glom onto that, and it's something that I'm going to add to my list and start practicing.
Yeah, that's such a great example though too, right? Like you even say in the kind of joking, but all seriousness of you hear things and you're like, oh, I could add that. I could have, rewrote that a little bit. But the truth is, and what I hear and what I know is that we're never finished. I mean, we're always growing and evolving, and that's really what's beautiful about what you shared as the author is like, oh, and I mean, just to refresh our memory, I'll ask you a question to follow this up about timeline because it felt like this came like a rocket ship out of you, like the focus that you had. And right, you could have let yourself overthink it and take years to do something with these ideas that you had and pulling out the strategies that supported you. Um, but like taking those steps and how important it is to sometimes just get it out there imperfectly and have it done and move forward because that's how we can, you know, improve on things is we're taking the action knowing that okay, doesn't have to be perfect, but at some point we have to say it's done enough to allow feedback. And that's really, I feel like what you're doing. So refresh our memory. How long did it take you to write your book?
It took about 3 months. And I will share that so much of what I put into the book were pieces or writings that I had in my journal. And, some of those quotes, those were from pictures that I had taken on my phone. I'd be out there in social media and you see a reel or just a posting of a poem or someone's writing and it would speak to me. So I'd save it and that's what I reflect on. And some of those I constantly go back to so that when I did get the inspiration to start the book, there was a little bit of that ease that I had something to refer to, yet it was the challenge of placing all of that inside the ABCs.
Mm. Yeah. I love that reminder of inspiration. Like how we do receive inspiration from all the things that we're doing, a- and being able to take those pieces of inspiration to you know come together and have these, and that's the idea of like taking a small step, having these small pieces that they come together and they form you know larger accomplishments. They have bigger things that come when we are open to the inspiration. So right, you gathering the things that were inspiring you, that were helping you in real time move through the challenges in your life and have these strategies that then you were able to put together and you know see how you were making decisions in your life, to live your life for yourself and then turn around and teach us those simple strategies that go deep within us to really help get the awareness and then be able to make the choice of, what will serve you today, whether that's, you know, affirmations or journaling, right? Like how those things play a role in that.
Mhm.
So, do those things still support you with, right, after you've wrote the book, you've been through it and practiced and had feedback and you're hearing feedback still, um how does this still serve you personally in your mindset?
Well, they reflect the guardrails that I use day in and day out. I lean on those. And so,
Mm.
for my purpose and to really bring a lot more joy to my days and feel that there's so much more positivity in the world, I have all those strategies, and those are what I practice. And I always hold myself accountable. And I know always is a strong word, but 99% of the time, because when I do fall short, I have that internal, you know, angst and I beat myself up or I know I've let myself down. And so that was another factor that even as I was contemplating publishing a book, I thought, hey, for me, what better way to also hold myself accountable, putting this all out there in writing and sending it to the world? Because it took a long time. I mean, it's just so many of those strategies, as everyone, who would reflect on the book knows that they're not shockingly new. They're things that we've all, practiced and been told about for the course, better course of our lives. And so I've dabbled in a lot of those here and there over my life. And I'm always amused, as I've been drawn to go back to continually practicing some, and some I had never stopped.
Mm. Yeah. I love that because right, the understanding that some things, right, some of the strategies are ongoing and they never stop, like you just said. And some of them are more like just in the immediate moments that can really serve us, which I think is, and I'm not fully through the book yet. So just like in the awareness that I've already built for myself in going through the strategies, like that's something I can attest to, knowing like some of these, it's just like in the moment, this one will really serve. And then some of them it's like, oh yeah, that one's coming with me, daily. That one's a great reminder and a practice, really a practice of being something to serve me and a strategy that can continue to remind me of, that joy in my life. Yeah.
I love
So
that.
yeah. So one of the pieces of your journey that, we've talked about is, you know, in the process of making the decision to leave a job and then really being able to step into, when you were using strategies for yourself. So what would you say of like being able to process the decision like emotionally? What was the reaction from your family and friends when you were making those decisions? And how were these strategies really supporting you in that time? And was there a specific one, I guess, that comes to mind that you're like, that one, that one was really the one that supported you in a specific way?
That's those are some loaded questions. Where do I start? It's, truly with my prior position, I had just instances over the course of probably a few years, and even maybe before, as so many of us navigate and try a new job, different career, and in this case, there's situations or certain days where you'd wrap up the day and feel very defeated, or I'd recognize that I had chosen to get really small in a conversation or dealing with a matter, and then frustrated, and certainly always trying to accomplish as much as I could. And it's one thing to continue to exercise that level of effort, dedication to a role that's outside of your home, and all of the benefits that go with that, they're external, where then I'm also a mom of three daughters, and just experiencing their lives, and as things evolved over the course of the last few years, and then outside of our home, just other pieces. So as time went on, and certainly COVID's roped into this too, where you certainly get opportunities to expose you to contemplating, like, am I happy with this? Is this really what I want to do? What if something else is out there that will bring me more joy? And a lot of it did circle back to how I was demonstrating to my daughters, the
Mm,
pros and cons of having a career, working outside of the home, and the positives, and they saw the negatives too. They saw me, and so they also saw me practice strategies. They do know that exercising has been a very big part of my life. There's some sense of satisfaction in what I can achieve because I have a passion for running. There's the satisfaction, the endorphins after you complete a exercise, and the calm that comes from doing yoga. So
mm,
there's all that mixed in. And then the journaling has been there. And the journaling certainly placed me in a position to not only put on paper how I was feeling and the challenges and the just the things that were coming into and out of my life, that you could reflect on that. And so as I would do that now and then, I could definitely celebrate growth. And also I could see that some things were continually straining me and things weren't changing. I was trying to change my mindset going in some days and, with a new lens and, kind of shifting or shaping some of how I was as a person. And then at the end of the day, some of those values, they wouldn't align with all of the pieces that I was helping to orchestrate. And so I think for some of us, it gets exhausting, it's mentally and that maybe at the end of the day, I just knew that it was time to move on. I wasn't thriving as an individual, and that was very important to me.
Yeah. I love that right, you're sharing about that shift between those external expectations and the that are and then you're talking about how you really got clear on the misalignment and that internal alignment and really the reflection of self-love for you to see like this is out of alignment with your values and what you want to be a model for with your family, bringing that into, um, the understanding that our kids are watching us. They're paying attention and they know, right, more than anything else, how you actually feel when you get home in your safe space. We come home from, doing those external things that maybe are expected of us. And then they actually know, like, is that really, you know, are you coming home as your best or are you feeling defeated? And, having these outer expectations really weigh on you. And then that's example too, like how much we take and how that ripples into our family. So you know, that example for your girls, how has that shifted with even writing the book and having the strategies for them as teens and young adults? Like, how has this impacted that relationship?
Well, one, they're very proud of me for writing the book. They got just very excited that I was doing it. And, it was not something that I dreamt of doing. I had shared it with them and they were surprised and said, go mom, you do you. And
Oh,
they have been very supportive and they've got copies of the book and some, a couple of my daughters have shared books with other friends too. So there's
yeah.
that recognition and they're teenage and one is no longer a teenager, she's older, yet they are women, they are youth. And so I'm excited and I admire that they have this mentality that there are some things that we need to focus on. Our mental health is a big deal, and the choices we make, and how all of those things amidst our days and the challenges we have, and the highs and lows, all of it ripples together, and we get to choose to control how we react and how we want to kind of how we want to just sometimes just pause and figure out, hey, is this for me? Wait, I'm not feeling comfortable here. What's bringing me joy? So that they're not feeling so much of just going through life, but they get to choose what they want to do and how they want to feel about some of the things that come their way.
Mm, yeah, what a gift, to for them to I mean, quite literally have a manual to help them, guide their journey of being young women and not only having the example and the person, but now they have something to take with them, as they move into the next phases of their own lives too. I think that's amazing and very inspiring and I can only imagine how it feels to be like to know how proud they are and like appreciative that you were like, "Yeah, do your thing," and cheer you on. That's so cool. That's so cool.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, Becky, because it goes back to what we always talk about and being on a journey. And
Mhm.
for our kids to know, it's not so much that you go through these stages of life that somebody has mapped out. We go through school and then you graduate from high school and then you go out into the real world and you should have a job and you should maybe have a family and you should possibly have kids and all these things. And sometimes it's this idea that people feel that you have that job and now you're set. You stay in that job and you should be happy because you have a paycheck, you have benefits. Yet at the end of the day, it might not be the best fit. And, jobs, those workplaces change. And so a lot of it doesn't necessarily change as you evolve as a person. So
Right.
it's been really important to me that I continue to practice that for the girls because I don't want to find that they've felt that they've been caged in, but instead that they have freedom and that they can
Mhm.
soar through their lives and choose things that bring them joy and not have to fall short and, step through something because they feel they should do it.
Mm. Ugh, I have full body chills, Tam. Like, so good. Oh, such a beautiful thing to be able to witness you in this growth journey, like, truly, amazing to get to see that in live action, like, your daughter, some of them showing up in the book study and attending tapping that we just did recently, like, being open to different practices. And again, it's you leading example, being that example to just show them, like, there's other ways and other ways of thinking, other ways of, making your choices. And I'm curious about imposter syndrome. Like, did you feel that at all for, like, who am I to write a book? Who am I to be the person to share this with the world? Like, right, that's what I think about imposter syndrome, is like we question ourselves and being worthy of the thing that we're being called to do. And did you feel like that stalled you or stopped you, or talk to me about that?
Oh, sure. That imposter syndrome surfaced a few times.
Yeah.
And I will admit that I believe I was more inspired and pulled into the idea that I could make a difference by sharing the ABCs, even with the one person. And so,
Mm,
Becky, you and so many other people have given me a lot of those words, have shared those remarks, those statements or affirmations. And those I basically put on paper and I wanted to share them forward because for me it's paying it forward. A lot of people might not have access to amazing people or anyone that might just want to feed that type of information because frankly we go through the course of our days sometimes and we don't share inspirational remarks or affirmations with each other. Not everybody, no. And some of us do. It depends as you find the good fortune to be among like-minded people that do and say and have comfort in going to those vulnerable places to share those things. So
mm,
that for me kind of overshadowed the imposter syndrome.
mm,
And I'll admit though, I believe now it's almost a year since I published the book. And when I first published the book, I probably wasn't as large about it, and promoting it. For me, it's not about me. And I wanted to just make sure people were focusing on the book for the need to get more attention on mental health and for it to become more common for people to feel more comfortable to know, you're not alone. And I do get that maybe if I would have taken on more of a marketing strategy, that book could be in people's, hands across the world. And, eventually it still can. And that's where I've kind of now taken it upon me this year to feel stronger about let's do that. So I think I've shared with you, I'm being a little bit more direct and asking some people to help me. And they're doing it. And it's not about me, it's not so much wanting to sell books at all. It never has. It's been wanting to help people because truly, as we know, the blessing of having so many people or even one person in your corner, that matters so
Mm,
much. And I want to be that person. I want to feed that need for anybody that needs it. Um, and so if it's through the book or the book discussion, or even just getting that topic out there, that is going to be for me the best accomplishment, the
mm,
biggest that I can do.
yeah. I love this. And I love the line of, thinking about it only, it only takes one. I mean, it really does only take one um impact, to really feel. I mean, at least I can relate to that. I'll say that, right? That's maybe not for everyone. Not everyone is okay with only thinking maybe one person, which we know there's more, but for me, I can relate to that, Tammy. Like I think about even if it's one, that's amazing. And when it's more, that's bonus. Like I love that frame of mind. I can get on that train and ride that for sure. And I think that that's a practice and a mindset also, like a mind strategy of just really looking for. I think it also kind of speaks to your intention of what you said. It wasn't this is the Tammy show. This is about you. This is really about getting these strategies out there to keep it simple. Like it can't get more simple than the ABCs.
Right. Well, and I have to be truly honest, even as I would post about the book, you do have the stories in your head where people, are telling you, oh, what are you doing? Who do you think you are? You can tell us this, or why do you think you can put that book out? And yes, I am human, so it did go through, and it still there's remnants that creep in.
You got to just keep doing it, right? I mean, um staying away from like the self-doubt, and I'm going to just pull through the tip for the listeners that in case they missed it, like the advice that I heard from your story, what you're just sharing, is how important it is to also be around people that can kind of counteract that self-doubt that does creep in. I mean, with doing new things, stepping out, putting ourselves out there, like everyone, me included, right? This is a challenge. We're human beings. We feel emotion and we feel things, and then we also get to choose what we do with the feeling. And if we let it go, or if we sit with it too long, or overthink things too long, all of those things. But what I heard you say is how important it is to also have the people that speak life to, even indirectly. Like, I didn't actually know you were writing a book, right? Like, I didn't clearly know that, which there's probably something to that as well. Is, talk less about the things you're going to do, maybe, and lean into talking about it after. That's actually a really great thing that you kind of shared also with saying you're stronger this year about getting out there about the book. It's not, I'm writing a book. No, you wrote the book and you have confidence now to be able to, because you have feedback. You have the tangible thing. It isn't a in progress, as much of it's done. And now the impact. You know that it's already impacted way more than one person. So you've built a confidence, I feel like, around the message and the understanding of having mind strategies to just keep reaching for what brings us and prioritize the happiness that comes in our life.
Mhm. Doing it
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, doing it for you. I love that. Okay, so what would you say is like where have you seen the most impact since publishing your book?
For me personally, or just broadly, the impact for me, there's definitely the satisfaction that I did it and that I'm helping what is a large cause, and bringing attention to it and being a light for others. It is. it is definitely a huge bonus when people do come up to me and they'll share that they've read the book and they really appreciate it, or what or how it's impacted them, or they'll tell me their own stories. And
Mm.
that that's the bliss of it. That is, for me, not exactly what I imagined, right? So writing the book was one thing, sometimes you're focused just on the one task at hand, and you just don't quite know how it's all going to look and feel until afterwards. So as people still do that, like I did get a letter in the mail the other day, and somebody
Mm.
was so excited to read something that I had written, and to feel that inspiration, and to know that I'm impacting them. And so that's one of the other factors is, I'm drawn to always wanting to make a difference and feeling that, I have
Mm.
a purpose, which I know is common. So many of us yearn for that. And just to know at the end of the day that I am making a difference, to know that it's affecting somebody else, that's huge. And I matter.
Yes, 100%. I love I love that hearing that you're getting, letters or people expressing, and sharing that with you. I think that that just, I mean, it does. It makes it a little more sweeter to know just that the impact is there because we don't see it and we don't, I mean, that's even just a tiny fraction, right, of the impact that we know it's actually making. And it's kind of like a confirmation, or we'll call it a breadcrumb, right? Of like what's really coming through and what's really being received from what you give, and the power of that, like that I'm taking away from even saying that is the importance of expressing that to people also, right? Like when we as the receivers can express that. Like if you read Tammy's book or if you went and got it now, please go give her a review. That is a way to show, the impact that someone putting their heart on the line or their story out there, the courage that it takes to do those things, even when they're like, oh, it just shot through me, or it took a long time, or whatever the story is. A easy way to show appreciation for the people doing that stuff is write a book review, right, Tammy? I mean, book reviews are important on Amazon to show other people that are exploring options to get, like, this is one that's simple, it's a great read, like go and check out the reviews. um yeah.
Thank you for that. I do want to continue to boost that. And I do admit I love the title. And it's so much of what I think we all do at so many times in our lives. We're in our way. We're the ones that are telling us, oh, don't go. No, you're not going to be good enough at that. You
Mm.
know, don't even try that. And if you just shut that down, that voice, and coupled with that is doing things for you, which is so much seems unheard of for so many people in our society. It's definitely something that we're starting to see shift, where people are, choosing to do something for them, not contemplating that it's going to be perceived as selfish or get caught up in all of that noise, yet feel that, hey, when you do something and it's for something that's going to bring you joy, or you're just choosing to do something that aligns with your values, how good that feels. And then you feel that you're living. And I feel strong with that because we all know about the shoulds. We talked about that earlier, and we do that a lot in the community that we're in, and that people are always, deciding, oh, wait, should I go? I better not do that. I should really just, sit tight, suck up how I feel, and, go along with the flow because it's easier. And at the end of our days, and this is where at the end of our lives, right? If you chose to get small or just ride along with someone else, I think there's going to be that regret. And, regrets are big. I think it's good you have some because that's where you are figuring out how to navigate your journey, and that you might want to go back and try something out later, or know that, hey, maybe that wasn't the best choice, but we only got the one journey. So if you're going to do anything, you do want to be mindful of how you're going to be benefiting from it. So
Yeah, I agree. I love that too. Like I love the car analogies. We know this. And I was even picturing when you were saying like all that noise, and I was like, turn that down, turn that radio, no, turn the channel, turn it down, and being mindful of who you ride along with is another thing that I was taking from what you were just, sharing. And yeah, who's along for the ride with you, and being able to be mindful of the people on the journey with you. um such great advice. And Tammy, the one other thing I wanted to really touch on before we're wrapping up is, because I know that this was a thing, right? Because I was in it too. So talking, sobriety and spiritual growth. And I know that you've been exploring the sobriety and being deeper in your relationship with God, because we have this in common. And I'm curious of how, or if you feel like that piece of your journey has like shaped your outlook and the way that you approach your life now.
well, sobriety, it was a long time coming for me to get to the place where I felt comfortable making the choice to not drink alcohol, and still decide to go out and about and hang with friends who might have been in a
Yeah.
setting that there's plenty of alcohol, and then have to, feel the need to explain because,
Mhm.
frankly, we live in Wisconsin. There's a lot of alcohol that's consumed here, and it's a norm. So that when you're not drinking it, people are always questioning it. And so I think for me, I dabbled in sobriety here and there, and a lot of it was driven because I would feel so lousy the next day. And I'm a
Mm,
morning person. I love to get up. I want to go for a run. And so those things bring me joy. That's a high. Yet I would be waking up feeling a little rough and trying to push through a, 5-mile run and then feeling so much regret that I didn't hold strong the night before, and beating
mm,
myself up because I didn't. And then now I've started my day off on this wrong foot, and it just would continue to ripple into this just ongoing angst with myself. And, who was I to blame but myself? It's not as if
mhm,
anybody, was, forcing you to consume anything. It just felt uncomfortable. I want, like many others, you want to be part of the rest of the group and don't want to
mhm,
stand out. And I did enjoy, I enjoyed being together, yet I did, slowly through a few different, challenges I set with myself. Because I think there's always the point of, who's going to help resolve this? No one else is going to help me get there. And so I would place in front of me the joy, the amazing feeling I'd have when I would wake up the next day and I would just not even have
mhm,
any no remnants of the night before, but just taking on a new day, rejoicing in that. And it was just the more I did it, Becky, the more beautiful the days are. I don't have any lingering, and the lingering just resentment or just downright feeling yucky because we only get, one day at a time. And so I didn't want to compromise a day where I've now realized too, I've I've become stronger, where I can go back out and hang with my friends who are choosing to drink alcohol, and I still can now have the same joy of interacting with them because it was hard. It's not easy to, flip a switch, but to work myself up to feeling comfortable, confident with my decision. And I think the comfort is to know that I am different and to hold my own and know it's the best thing for me. And they're doing them and I'm doing me and can still have a friendship and life goes on.
that's right. And that's exactly why I brought it up, because it's for you. live life for you. And this is a beautiful example of it's hard and challenging to do the things that are right for us that we have maybe felt, this nudge of like, that's really not for me. And to go against what maybe auto responding or on autopilot or cruise control, if we want to go with the car analogy, to say like, this is just what we do. And guess what? We can choose differently when we then know it's out of alignment. So, right, like giving ourselves the opportunity to choose something that is more in alignment with what is for us versus what we've just known. That's such a powerful example of what we're saying about all of this, right? It is about making the choices that are really to keep our own happiness in perspective, right? And letting go of what other people are going to frame it up as, and really, it's what we're putting the weight on to say they're going to think this of me, or are they? And what's that saying? What anyone's thinking of us isn't actually our business.
Mhm.
I think of that too about that. So yeah, thanks for being open to sharing that too, because I think that that's such a great example of the challenge that we can have around making a change that is for our own good and for no one else's, and no judgment on anyone else. It's just what's right for you and standing in what's true. And I like the little nuance I'll share too is that you saying it's easier, again, it's easier now because you kind of protected that and built your strength in order to get out and um, feel stronger in what's right for you. So love
Well,
that.
and it's habit, right? Like, so you'd go out and the habit was, it's Thursday night, we're gonna go do this
Right.
activity, play volleyball, and then we're gonna go to the bar afterwards. And so then at the bar was the drinking. And so to remove yourself is what I had chosen to do until I would kind of configure the rest of it. And then to go back and feel that could change my habit. The habit is still getting together with friends and feeling the joy. So, I also don't want to lose sight of the spiritual piece that you brought up, because that, in itself was life altering. I'm so grateful that I refreshed on my connection with God and learning so much more of how great it feels to have that faith, and how much
Mm.
it's felt the positivity that I've gained, and the strength that I've pulled from the relationship I have with God. And I think that is empowering. And so for me, that choice to kind of find myself again with religion gave me that extra strength to, step away a few years ago, take that pause or sabbatical in my life, and know that in God's hands, everything was going to unfold the way it needs to be, and that I would continue to just be diligent and, work through the research and the exploration of all the opportunities, and I find my way. And so I think
Mm.
that for me was a huge experiment, but also too a test of me and my faith, and knowing and now realizing that things do work out. Everything will unfold just as God intends it to.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for putting a touch on that as well. There's so much that we could talk about with the journey that that growth takes us on, and the nuances and the stories and the way that we choose to move in and out and play with what comes to us. It's such a dynamic. And thank you for sharing, pieces of those stories with us. And um, Tammy, where's the best place for the listeners to connect with you, find the book, or learn more about the awesome things that you're doing?
Well, for sure, the book is available on Amazon. For me, I can put my email address in the comments. I'd certainly invite anyone to reach out if they want to chat, connect virtually or in person. I'd love it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure to put that in the show notes too for the listeners to grab to share. And yeah, thank you, Tammy, for coming back on the show, sharing more in depth around the journey of now having wrote the book, getting out there more confidently this year, sharing your message. I just want to encourage everyone to go get the book, check it out. And also, there'll be an invitation in the show notes for you to come to a book study. If you don't even have the book yet, come to the book study that we're in right now and hear more about the strategy from Tammy and as a collective, the sharing that happens in there. So Tammy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Becky.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for tuning into the Choose on Purpose podcast, the Wisdom of Women series. We'll have more wise women sharing their stories and love yourself, live fearlessly, do all things with purpose. We'll see you next time.